Hi, my name is Cheryl Piazza, and this is my video PowerPoint on inclusive leadership for AEP 855 at Fort Hays State University. The class is Educational Leadership. In this presentation, there are three parts. Part 1 is Introduction and Explanation of Inclusive Leadership. Part 2 is Discussion of Diversity and Inclusion. Part 3 are the challenges of being an inclusive leader. What is inclusive leadership? Inclusive leadership is the practice of leadership that carefully includes the contributions of all stakeholders in the community or organization. Inclusion means being at the table at all levels of the organization, being a valued contributor, and being fully responsible for your contribution to the ultimate result. Inclusive leadership creates an organizational culture that consistently produces results that benefit all of those stakeholders. I included this quote by Peter Drucker: "The only definition of a leader is someone who has followers." And being an inclusive leader is a way to obtain followers and keep followers. Peter Drucker also stated that in order to start doing things that are new, you must stop doing things that are old. In this presentation, I would like to talk about the 5 levels of leadership. The first level is position. This is the starting place for every level of leadership. It's the bottom floor and foundation upon which leadership is to be built. Level 2 is permission. This is the first real step into leadership. People actually start to follow you. This is where followers give their supervisors permission to lead them. Level 3 is production. Leadership takes off and shifts into another gear at this level. It qualifies and separates true leaders from people who merely occupy leadership positions. Good leaders are productive. They make things happen and they get results. Level 4 is people development. To reach the upper levels of leadership, leaders must transition from producers to developers. Good leaders in level 4 invest their time, energy, and thinking into growing others as leaders. And level 5, the pinnacle. It is rare that a leader reaches this level. This is a culmination of leading well at all other levels. Pinnacle leaders stand out and are cut above. They shift the entire organization and benefits everyone in it. Level 5 leaders possess an influence that transcends the organization they work in. In this video, Jim Collins talks about what it is like to be a level 5 leader. I like this video because he states that level 5 leaders are more than just leaders with charisma. And he uses Abraham Lincoln as an example, which I think is an excellent one. As a child, we were always taught that Abraham Lincoln was not the most charismatic of speakers. Yet, he went on to be one of the greatest leaders of our time. So I'm going to play this video. It's very short, and then I will go on.
But first of all, the 5 is not about personality. So leadership is not about personality. Sure, in fact, some of the greatest leaders we studied had a charisma bypass. And we should never confuse charisma with leadership. They're very, very different ideas. Some of them are even odd and eccentric. One of the great chief executives of the last 30 years is Herb Kelleher of Southwest Airlines. He solves a trademark dispute with an arm wrestling contest. It's just not normal. He would talk about wearing a flowered hat and a feathered boa around the office. Just strange. So it's not personality. The key to the great leaders that we studied was their humility. But it was humility of a very special type. It wasn't humility in a weak sense. It was, in fact, just the opposite. It was what I would describe as an absolute, obsessed, burning, compulsive ambition that wasn't about them. absolute burning compulsive ambition for a cause, for a company, for the work, for a set of values, not themselves. And an ability to translate that ambition, that subjugating themselves to something that is not about them, into a series of decisions, very willful decisions. And this is why I look to Lincoln as our great president in the United States, because he was ambitious first and foremost that the nation must endure, and he had the will to endure the most brutal war in all of our history, with all of it during his tenure, and to lose his life. This is the five.
This is another video that I found that I really like because it talks about diversity of thought. When we think of diversity, so often we think of diversity of skin color or diversity of ethnic background. But the most important diversity are the differences we have in ideas, which when shared can strengthen our corporation, our educational system, our company, whatever it is we're doing. When thoughts are homogeneous, it limits our potential to be successful. By challenging our assumptions that we've long held, it reveals new possibilities. When we work in isolation, we don't have the benefit of our combined strength of our ideas. When we share knowledge, it only improves results, and I see this firsthand in my school at our World Language Department. Our best professional learning communities on our professional development days are when we spend time together sharing ideas. With all of our different ideas, we pool them together and come up with new and interesting ways to present material to our students. So I'm going to play this video. It's very short, but I like it very much.
There's no one else in the world exactly like you. Everything from the books you read, the movies you watch, the places you visit, the people you meet, the work that you do, basically everything that you experience in life influences and determines the kind of thoughts and ideas that you produce. And although your ideas may be good, who knows how great they could become once they've had a chance to mingle and develop with good ideas from other people. That's the magic called diversity of thought. There's always more than one way to think about and accomplish something. Groups that encourage diversity of thought often achieve amazing, innovative breakthroughs. On the other end of the spectrum, you have groups that just follow the status quo and thrive on what's called groupthink. That's like when someone says, I think Justin Bieber will be the perfect guy to play the next James Bond, and everyone else agrees. Right. So, to avoid that kind of craziness where you work, here's what you need to do. Practice courage by bringing your ideas to the table. Listen and try to understand different points of views. Focus on the problem solving and not the personalities. Celebrate your uniqueness and that of everyone else you work with.
The next article that I'd like to cite is one by James Ryan from the University of Toronto. This is Inclusive Leadership and Social Justice in Schools. He states that the division that separates the advantaged from the disadvantaged has widened, and this inequality displays distinct patterns which revolve around markers of distinction associated with ethnicity, social class, gender, sexual orientation, mental and physical ability, language, and others. Traditional management did little to acknowledge or address these issues. Ryan wrote this article to introduce another approach to leadership and social justice, inclusive leadership. In this article, Ryan cites Rawls, who states that social justice will be achieved when goods, rights, and responsibilities will be equally distributed among individuals, and that social justice can be seen in terms of inclusion. While it originally was used in terms of special needs, more recently scholars have expanded that notion to include other axes of disadvantage. in our schools. Another article that I found that I really liked was one by Gary Howard, which is called As Diversity Grows, So Must We. Schools that experience rapid demographic shifts can meet the challenge by implementing 5 phases of professional development. The first one is building trust. 90% of U.S. teachers are white and English-speaking. They have not acquired the experiential background that prepares them for the growing diversity of their students. School leaders must acknowledge this challenge in a positive, inclusive, and honest way. They must model inclusive and non-judgmental discussion, reflection, and engagement strategies that teachers can use to establish positive learning communities in their classrooms. Number 2 is engaging personal culture. The central aim of this second phase is building educators' cultural competence, their ability to form authentic and effective relationships across differences. Number 3 is confronting social dominance and social justice. Educators confront the current inequities that affect education. The central purpose of this phase is to construct a compelling narrative of social justice that will inform, inspire, and sustain educators in their work without falling into the rhetoric of shame and blame. Number 4 is transforming instructional practices. In this phase, schools assess and, where necessary, transform the way they carry out instruction to become more responsive to diversity. For teachers, this means examining pedagogy and curriculum. And number 5, engaging the entire school community. To create welcoming and equitable learning environments for diverse students and their families, school leaders must engage the entire school community. And in my last slide, we have some of the obstacles to inclusive leadership. We should be leading through diversity and not in spite of it. Some of the obstacles are a reluctance to recognize or acknowledge exclusive practices, managerial approaches that reinforce already entrenched hierarchies, policies that place responsibility for what happens in organizations in the hands of single individuals like school administrators, a cynicism toward efforts to empower people. If we are genuinely interested in making the world a better place, then we can begin by putting inclusive leadership into practices in our schools. This was said by Jim Ryan. Thank you for watching this. This is my first attempt at making a screencast-o-matic. You're teaching an old dog new tricks, so I hope it worked out. Thank you.